All right, we're live. Good morning, Bookmap community. Hope everyone's doing well. Happy Monday to you. All right, well, let's jump right in. We'll take a look at the charts, and I'll give you my opinion. Whoa.
Good morning, Bookmap community.
Little delay there. Okay, so over the weekend, FinTwit went absolutely crazy talking about this pullback that we had over the weekend. And I just wanted, or on Friday at the end of the day, and I just want to take a second to say it might not be as big a deal as you think it is. And the reason I'm going to say that is this. Let's just expand out the profile here. And we'll just kind of look at how it traded. So we opened... Okay, so we open right down here, and the market just kind of spent the first few hours of the day balancing inside the range that it had created from the overnight. Then the market broke that initial balance to the upside and began to trend higher. Well, why did it do that? Because we had the weirdest of weird situations that doesn't happen often, but we had a gap inside a gap. This was actually a gap up from previous that had been unfilled, and we opened all the way down here, creating another gap inside a gap. Okay, and so that just created a lot of imbalance in the market. There were traders all over the place looking to take trades based on those gaps. And so the highest probability once we began to trend on Friday was that we were going to go fill that gap, that we were going to get up to 44.72 to fill that gap. And we did. Yay! We made it. But then what happened as soon as we did? The auction literally immediately failed, right? The next TPO continued the trend. The following created a poor high, and that immediately ended. So that kind of tells us that maybe all they wanted to do was fill that gap. Now, something that was very interesting to me about the Bookmap that had caught my eye on the way up was this massive node of volume. Let me just scooch on back to Friday's range here. There we go. Was this massive node of volume of liquidity that had been sitting up near the high of the day. And so what I said to myself essentially was like, that's funny to me that there's that much liquidity and that it's been sitting there all day and that nothing has happened with it. That's got to be some market maker doing something. So I was really just looking for a change. You know, what happens? Does anything change there? So we worked our way all the way back up to fill the gap. We got cessation of the trend, but nothing changed with this liquidity. I mean, not a single order left the books. It just sat there. That is very, very unusual. Generally, once you start to get changes in the market, all the liquidity just immediately starts to move all over the place, right? Because the bots are reacting. All of those day trading bots are realizing, okay, the momentum has changed. Boop, boop, beep, boop. They're recalculating, and then they're deciding, okay, now we're going to do this. Now we're going to do that. Well, that was still sitting there the whole time. Now, I actually stopped trading at that point because I was, it was Friday and I was done for the day. I was happy with my profits and I was ready to walk away. So I wasn't sitting in front of the chart when we had that massive pullback. I didn't experience any of the emotions that came with that. It wasn't something I was there for. So when I opened up the chart this weekend, I go on FinTwit and I see all these people freaking out about how it's the end of the world because the sell-off means that the world's coming to an end. And I look at the chart and I notice one thing that jumps out at me more than any other. Boop, 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 boop. We literally closed at the exact same level to a tick that the market opened at. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, let me relieve any tension or fear or animosity that you might be coming into the market this morning with because we had a sell-off on Friday. It wasn't real. It wasn't real. We got nothing to worry about, guys. It was all just market makers. Obviously, somebody had bought a lot of calls or a lot of puts on the 0 day, and those market makers needed to make sure that the market closed right where it opened so that they would expire worthless. for whoever bought those. So they let the market fill the gap because there was so much momentum to do so. But as soon as they did, boop, boop, they brought it right back down. They literally only pushed it a few ticks past that opening price where those market makers would then stop selling, and boom, we close right there. So I'm not panicked about the sell-off that we had yesterday. But what it does tell me is that the market is still in balance. So I just want to zoom out here for a second and take a look at the daily. We can see that the market is in a balance area. Okay, a balance area is basically a range that the market gets stuck in for a period of time, and it just has to go sideways in that range as long as it has to before it's ready to break. Look, here's a balance area right here. They had to go sideways until they could break lower. Here's another one here. They had to go sideways until they could break higher. Here is the longest freaking balance ever. This was like the 2-month long balance area that we had to just keep going sideways in until we were ready to break and go somewhere new. So all this is to me is just more balance, right? It's just we weren't ready to keep going and we need to go sideways some more. But that's important context. That gives me 2 things to think about this morning. Thing number 1, we are in the middle of a balance area. Often, when a market is in balance, it works its way from one end of balance to the other. So from the middle, the more likely probability is that the market is going to continue lower to that opposite end. However, if the market were to find support here, if backtesting these levels, which we did in the overnight, was enough and the market can turn that momentum around today, well, then that would be bullish to head back up to the opposite end. And likely this next one will be the one that gives us that breakout. So I have to be like water, my friends. We all do. I'm sorry, but coming into the market this morning, we must be open to any possibility. The market could go up, it could go down, it could go sideways, it could be highly volatile, it could be super slow and boring. There is literally unlimited options for what the market could do today because it's in the middle of the balance area. Half the traders think it's going to go up, half the traders think it's going to go down, and so we just have to wait and see who's going to win the tug of war before we know for sure. All right. Well, thanks, Charles. Appreciate you telling me that there's no way to know what they're going to do today. Well, how will I know? Please tell me how I will know. Well, first and foremost, I wanted to just zoom on out a little bit and make note of the fact that that liquidity that was sitting there on Friday all day and never moved, it's still there. So it is now becoming a magnet. Market participants are now becoming aware that there is liquidity just sitting up there above yesterday's high, just waiting for the market to come up and fill those orders. So that's the first thing I want to be aware of. Okay? Knowing that, I'm going to pay very close attention to this overnight high, which is at, we'll just call it 44.40. Okay? That area right there is going to be extremely important once the market opens this morning. Can we work our way above there? Okay? And if we can we find support up there? Can we push up, bring in some new buyers, and keep it going? If we can, I will get bullish very, very quickly. Now, we do have resistance above, lots of resistance above, okay? It's not like it's going to be a straight trip up. But if we're able to get above that overnight high at 44.40 and find support up there, it means they're trying to take the market higher. It means those buyers are winning. We've got weak references we left behind, and we've got that liquidity up at 44.80. So those start to become targets, right? However, this node right here in the middle of the overnight, that is the last support the market has, the last decent support to hold up the market. If the market opens this morning, either with a gap down or it just opens and pushes below yesterday's low, it is likely to head down to those 44.25 area and look for support there. Okay, so they know they got sellers up here in all the resistance levels. They know they got buyers down here. So if the market opens and it starts to push lower, I'm looking to test that 44.25 area. How the market reacts to that will be very important. If it can hold the support, it's probably just going to be a sideways day, right? If we push, say we opened right here. Say we open right here, we kind of push down a little bit, we get down into there, we start chopping, boom. That's probably sideways day is what we're setting ourselves up for. But if we push down here and we get below there and that starts to become resistance, in my mind, it becomes much more probable that we now need to test the overnight low. Doing so would take me back to my analysis on the daily, and recognizing that if we failed to break out of balance up here, the highest probability is heading down to test the opposite end. So that overnight range is very important to me this morning. It's going to be the only thing that can tell me whether the market is going to go up, down, or sideways, right? Getting above that overnight high tells me we're probably trying to head back up. Getting below that node I just pointed out and finding resistance tells me that we're trying to go lower. And anything else, I'm just going to assume we're going to chop it up sideways until we get above one of those levels. All right. Are there any questions from the chat? Rob the Trader says the AV is good. Well, thank you, brother. Appreciate you. Emmanuel says hi. Good to see you. And Chillin' with Dylan says, sup, dogs? Sup to you, dog. Pavel in the house. Good morning to you. We got 49 people hanging out, but only 12 likes. Come on, people, let's smash that like button. For those of you that are new to the channel or new to my stream on the channel, this is the Bookmap channel. Bookmap is a software. It's the one you see over here on the right. It's basically an order flow software that allows you to see where the liquidity is and where it goes throughout the trading day. Incredibly important tool. And my name is Charles. I run a community called Piratetraders, where we're focused on trading the ES and the NQ using the two-way auction process. So essentially, instead of trying to ask ourselves, what's happening in the world? What is this politician going to say? What is that person going to do? How many cars is this company going to sell? All we do is look at the information that's in the chart, minute by minute, day by day, and we assess what we believe is happening right now based on that information. And we know, based on statistical probabilities, what is likely to come next, right? If the market is in balance, it's likely to continue balancing. If it begins to trend, it's likely to continue trending. When it gives us those signs that trend is coming to an end, it's probably going to start balancing again, and so on and so forth. So that is my approach. I trade the two-way auction process. John O. Good day. Or Kiora. Good to see you. He says, how is the NQ doing? Let's take a look. Okay, NQ also very much in balance. Same as the ES. Let's actually just jump out and we'll take a look at it on the daily. Get some perspective first. Too many lines. Too many lines. Okay. All right. Well, that is clearly a market that is in balance right there. I mean, look at this. One balance area literally right on top of the other. This reminds me of the S&P a few months ago. These were such frustrating markets to trade. Okay, so as far as the horizontal balance is concerned, exactly the same scenario as the ES, right? You are right in the middle. So the continuation lower is the higher probability. But if the market is able to find support here, the next break might be the one that can actually break out. So I would describe it as being in a very similar situation as the ES this morning. I also just make note of this trend line, which looks extremely messy right here. I must have drawn that off of a different time frame. But I would actually, oh yeah, I see it. Yeah, okay, that's reliable. So, you could potentially be bouncing off that trend. And that could be a reason that the momentum is able to turn around and head back up to test that high. So, okay, same story as the ES. Let's look for levels. Yeah, I mean, that overnight low on the NQ is going to be pretty strong, okay? Because this massive node of volume, we were talking about this for the last few weeks. This little node right here, sometimes you get these in the market where the market just gets pinned to sort of an exact level, and it just keeps coming through again and again and again and again and again and building up more and more and more volume. And that just basically becomes a very, very strong magnet. It's just hard for the market to get away from there. But it also will likely become the bounce whenever we're ready to head back up to that previous node. So it looks like 2 days ago, on Thursday of last week, they perfectly bounced off of that node. And then in the overnight, they tested it, looked below and failed, and pulled back up. So right now, the market is telling us that that's good and that's going to hold. Okay, so we are looking for support pretty much right around that 15,120 area. And actually, it's almost exactly the same as the ES. The ES has a node just like that. So it's the same thing. I could have just used the same analysis. Push above the overnight high, look for continuation higher with lots of resistance above. So not an instant trip up, a grind. And if they're able to get below this node, below 15,120, look for continuation lower. But honestly, the NQ looks like it might be set up for a choppy sideways day. This is a lot of resistance. This is a lot of support. So a day where they have to grind for a while would not be unreasonable. So first major resistance, 15,190. Can they get through that? First major support, 15,130. Can they get through that? As long as they're grinding around in the middle, expect it to just chop around. Chop zone. $11 minutes to market open. Hit me with your questions. Or hit me with the thumbs up. If you got nothing to say, say something nice. Say, I like you, Charles. Here's the thumbs up. Kiki. Welcome, Kiki. Is Bookmap useful in crypto trading? Yes, it is. Bookmap has really, as a company, focused on trying to provide extra insights to the crypto community that just isn't available anywhere else. They've got other streamers that talk about those things that stream on crypto. I highly encourage you to check it out. And also, they've just got really cool tools. Like you can take a single Bookmap chart and you can combine all the data from every different broker. So you could have Coinbase's data, Gemini's data, whoever you want, all the different markets in one chart, so you can really see where the liquidity is. Whereas, like, for example, I've got this one. This is just Coinbase, so I can see where the liquidity is sitting on Coinbase for Bitcoin. But if I wanted to, I could build it out to include all the other platforms and really have an idea of what's going on. So yeah, I'm not the guy because I'm just a futures trader. I just trade the ES. But you've come to the right place for sure. Anthony says the ES overnight low looks not so nice. Not so nice. Yeah, there is an unfinished auction there. Good catch. But like I said, to me, that's not the priority, right? To me, I'm thinking bigger picture. If this node breaks, and in particular becomes resistance, so we push down, we push through, and then it becomes resistance, it's just all down from there. It's like, cool, yep, that needs some repair. This needs some repair. It's like we can just monitor for continuation lower. Because like I said, then it becomes about that conversation of balance on the daily, right? If we're heading down towards that balance area low on the daily, we're going to pass through all that stuff on the way. So it is a good catch, but it is not the most important piece of information to me right now. I want to see if they can hold it first. You guys with these names. Rattlesup. Rattlesup. What's up, Rattlesup? Is it fair to assume that the overnight low was due to the China CPI news? Markets have digested the news already and will be rallying since the London Open. And we've been rallying since the London Open. ES all the way down seems unlikely. Yeah, so what you're doing is you're approaching your understanding of the market from a fundamental point of view. You're asking the questions of why is the market doing what it's doing? Is it because of this news? Is it because of that? Will this news change things and lead to that? In my experience, I'm terrible trading that way. I know some people are. I know there are people that can make lots of money trading off of fundamentals, but I don't. So I have no answers for your questions. I can't help you at all. What I can do, though, is I can use the technicals to understand what's happening, right? So like I said, if the market pushes down to the 24 area, finds support, turns around and heads back up into yesterday's range, it doesn't really matter to me if it was because of China CPI news and then London opened and da-da-da. None of that matters. It's just what's happening. What's happening right now? We found support. We're turning around. We're heading higher. What's the most likely thing to happen next? Well, then let's say the market open, push below yesterday's low, find some resistance, come down, test that support, find some support, turn around and come back up into yesterday's range. Well, now I know, regardless of why it's happening, right? I don't really need to understand why. I just know the most likely spot it's going is to test that overnight high. So there's an opportunity in between there and there. And when it gets to that overnight high, I know it's probably going to get resistance, right? It got resistance in the overnight, so it's probably going to grind here. And so then recognizing what's happening there, does it fail and come lower? There's an opportunity to go short there. Does it find support to go higher? There's an opportunity to go long there. So I don't really need to understand like why whatever's happening is happening. I just need to know what is happening. And if that is happening, what's the most likely next thing? Now, am I going to be right every time? Of course not. But I can be right a majority of the time, more than I'm wrong at least better than half. And if I'm right better than half and I use good risk management and I never break my rules and I'm extremely disciplined, it is actually very possible to crank out a living every day, making money without ever knowing why the market does what it does. And not having to struggle with that question in my mind just makes it all so much easier. In my humble opinion. All right, we got no more questions and 5 minutes till the market opens. So I'm going to take a quick break, a super quick little break, and just go make myself a cup of coffee. Get your questions in the chat, and I will hit them as soon as I get back. Why did I do that twice? All right, I'm back. Did you guys miss me? Have you ever heard anybody put on a pot of coffee that fast before? It's crazy. Skills to pay the bills, baby. Khalid says, do you have Bookmap free? I don't have Bookmap free, but if you go to one of my live streams from my channel, which is Piratetraders on YouTube, you'll see a link in the description below where you can get a discount for the first few months, but unfortunately not for free, right? Nothing that's good in life is ever free. If you want something of value, you're going to have to pay for it. But I would highly recommend it. Even if even if you just want to get a subscription for Bookmap for like a couple of months just to try it and experiment with it, I think it's worthwhile. It's the insights that I get from it are very subtle. It's kind of hard to like say like, because I don't take any trades based purely off of Bookmap. It's not like I'm like, oh, if I see this, I go short or whatever. But there are so many times where I'm watching the price action, right? And I'm just I don't quite understand it. I'm like, wait, what are they doing? And almost always looking over a Bookmap, I can find an answer. It's like, oh, I see. There's an iceberg right there. They're trying to create liquidity to come back and take it out, blah, blah, whatever. It's like, oh, man, the insight is waiting for me once I glance over. So worth experimenting with. Give it a try. One minute to market open. Says, why don't you trade crypto? I used to. I started in crypto. I got my start back in 2017 with the altcoin, the crazy altcoin market that happened there. And I just made a ton of money having no idea what I was doing. Oh, here we go. Market is open. Okay, so we open with the gap down. First order of business for the market will be to fill the gap to try to get back up to yesterday's low at 44.31. And then we will look for resistance there. This is a level where the market could give us some insights as to what comes next. Okay, so that gap is filled. Now the question is, do the sellers pile on and push us back down through that opening price? Or are we able to stay up here inside yesterday's range? If we stay inside yesterday's range, we look to test that overnight high. If we get smacked back through the open, we look to head down and test that node around 44.24. But anyway, yeah, I got my start in 2017 in the altcoin market. I made tons of money, had no idea what I was doing. I was just straight up like picking a crypto because I liked the look of the team or whatever. Like I had no idea what I was doing. And then I gave it all back like in the year that followed. And that's what made me realize I need to learn trading. I need to actually learn how markets work, how they function. And through that process, I've come to realize that crypto is too manipulated and too random, that you're really gambling. Everyone who trades crypto is just gambling. There's no way to have statistical probabilities on your side. And I trade purely based off of statistical probabilities. So here's one for you. We're finding support inside yesterday's range, increasing the odds. We're going to test the overnight high at 44.40. Boom. That I can't give you on crypto. So that's why I trade the ES, because it's much more consistent. It will do the same behaviors over and over and over again. And that's just more reliable and easier to trade off of. I would much rather make my living grinding out a little bit of money every day consistently rather than trying to, hope I'm going to get this 10x amazing trade, where I turn $1,000 into 20,000 or something like that. That's not for me. Those days are behind me. All right, so here's that test of the overnight high. Again, a great level for more information. Are we going to find support here for continuation higher or get smacked back down? All right, so no support at the overnight high. Increase the odds of more chop, more sideways. So now the question that we're asking ourselves is, can they continue to keep the market inside yesterday's range? The more time we spend inside yesterday's range, the more volume we bring in, the more likely we're going to continue higher. But we have left behind some very low volume nodes down here. Those often need to backfill. Travis says, what time frame is the orange composite volume on the left? It's basically like the last, I think, of like 180 days or so, all combined together. I don't really get too specific with the exact numbers of things. I'm just really looking for where was the liquidity before. So basically, I can actually show it easier on a daily chart. So basically, like when the market was up here, right, I only needed to go back that much. But then when the market pulled down to here, I had to go back that much. When it pulled down to here, I had to go back that much. You know what I mean? I just basically, wherever was the market trading in this area in the past, what were those important levels? So right now, I'm pretty much including about this much time right here. Okay, so I'm watching the market. We are getting support at this overnight high. That's a little bit bullish to see. There's a but, though. But we're creating this taper up here, which is telling me we are running out of business. And we also just had all this liquidity disappear on Bookmap. So I would describe myself as cautiously bullish right now. Still uncertain if they can hold this overnight high. Nor, can we look at the Q? Let's do it. This is how we do it. The Q is doing the exact same thing. Bruh, you literally could have just used the ES, same thing. So they pushed above that overnight high and they're trying to turn it into support. Can they hold it? They also left behind some low volume nodes, and I would consider that low weak because it's one tick below the open. So the probability is pretty high they will come back and test this. And same thing as the ES, as long as they find support inside yesterday's range, it's bullish, right? But if they start to pull down below yesterday's range, you're heading down to test that 15,125. We must wait a bit longer. We just can't be sure yet. Who's going to win the tug of war, buyers or sellers? If they can hold this overnight high, so if they can hold 15,198, I would look to test the next major node above, 15,250, and then 15,295. Monitoring for continuation higher from there. Frito, the coffee is almost done. I know it's over there. I can smell it. Woo! Wait till that brigade stream starts so I can take a sip. I want it so bad. Give me my caffeine. All right, well, that's support. That is bullish to see. So I am very cautious with these low volume nodes. Both markets have a weak low and low volume nodes. So that tells me that probably we're not going to go straight up all day. Probably at some point we're going to come back down here. But for now, they're holding the support. So we are looking to head up and test the next resistance. On the ES, that's going to be 44.44. And we'll see what happens there. Charles, why do you care so much about the weak low and the low volume nodes? Well, it's just a sign of unfinished business, right? The market knows that that's there. The market knows there are participants that were willing to do business here that didn't get a chance. So right now the buyers are in control and they'll push it as far as they can. But they might not get it too far if they need to come back down here first. So I'm looking for that resistance above. All right. Well, they don't have it. My bad. Sorry, guys. So that means we do not have that support at the overnight high. We have a good high too. Good taper, good volume. So now we've come back for this low volume node. And we're looking to see, can we stay inside yesterday's range? It is sideways inside yesterday's range, bearish below, and bullish if we can get back above 44.41. More tug of war is necessary. 98 people watching, 50 likes. Smash that like button if you want to head up and test. 44, 44. Okay, so now that we're seeing a pattern begin to emerge in the Bookmap, it's giving us information. Okay, look at how they are stopping the market with an iceberg at this exact same level multiple times in a row. Okay, boom, boom. Now, the last time what happened was they brought the market back up and a bunch of people went long, right? So then they came back down. We can see these red circles right here. That's telling us that that was more sellers than buyers. So that was people getting stopped out of long trades. So they came in, they ate all that liquidity, brought it right back up to the same level, and now they're doing it again. So this is chop, but it's telling us they're building a magnet up here, right? They want that liquidity up here. They want you to go short right now and put your stop right here. Why would they want that? Well, so that once they find support, they can come back for it. So very choppy, but that is interesting information. Miguel, good morning to you. Welcome. All right, so now are they going to play the game again? Are they going to bring us right back up here to the overnight high just to slap it down again to get more people short? Or are we able to break through? This is a chop zone. If you're not familiar with the concept of the chop zone, it basically just means it's an area where the market is stuck in a range and they're going to play tug of war. They're going to pull it up. They're going to pull it down. They're going to pull it up and they're just going to keep going. It could go on. It would shock you how long it could go on for. But once they're finally ready to break out, having been patient, waiting for that signal will give you a lot of insights moving forward. So right now we're just still playing tug of war. Just look, we just got some more people to short. I wonder where they put their stops. Okay, so now we've begun to backfill that low volume node we've been talking about from earlier. So this is likely where there are participants waiting, right? So if the market can hold itself above yesterday's low, it is likely to turn around and head back up to take out those stops. Are there buyers waiting? Let's find out. Barely got to fill it. There is still liquidity there. Andrew says the Q is doing things. SH says the NQ needs to resolve its weakness. And Pavel says the NQ tests the overnight low. Well, that's a lot of bad news from the Q. Yeah. NQ is heading down to test its overnight low. So they just tagged that massive node we were talking about earlier. That's the very last hope for the buyers right there. If this now becomes resistance, if 130-ish, this area, it doesn't have to be that exact level. If this area starts to become resistance now, you're almost certainly heading to test that overnight low. You also want to pay very close attention to yesterday's low, which was the opening price, for resistance as well. If they push up to there and they cannot get back into yesterday's range, that would be bearish to see. So the Q also in a chop zone, but it's getting a little bit bearish, a little tiny bit. Remember, it's very important to keep track of the idea that it's not about going to a level that matters. It's about what happens when you get there. What do they do when they get to that previous support? Okay, so once again, filled some of those low volume nodes, still left one behind. They want to chop it up some more. Choppity chop. Peter H says, MP chart? Yeah, market profile. The chart on the left is market profile. That's basically, it's the same thing as like a candlestick chart. It just allows you to see the market in 3 dimensions. So it lets you see where the market spends the most time. That's where you see the letters overlapping. And where the market brings in the most volume. That's where you see the large volume nodes. And that's just basically more information than a candlestick. And then over here on the right, that is Bookmap, showing us where the liquidity is and what happens to it as it matches with price. Who's doing what, where, and damn it, why? So right now we think we're chopping so that we can create liquidity up here to come back through. We don't know how long it's going to take. They may chop for an hour, but just that's what they're doing, at least on the ES, different from the NQ. Andrew says, news print in 2 minutes. Thank you, sir. We always want to know when there's news coming. We don't care what it is, but we want to know when it's coming. So if that volatility kicks in, we're not surprised. Volatility and tempo is one of the easiest way they can squeeze day traders. Make it move really fast, out of nowhere, freak you out. And then it's too late. You missed your chance. Asim, name of the software I'm using, that's called Window Trader. Window Trader without a W at the end. Speaking of which, okay, so the market profile software just gave us some information. It did 2 things at the same time when we printed the B period. It pulled the fairest price to do business, what we call the point of control, up higher. And it pulled the value area, which is this blue box, higher. So both of those things are just letting us know that we're building momentum to the upside. And Bookmap letting us know the liquidity is beginning to disappear. That's those bots making way for the news. Okay, market just created a poor high. Absolutely, as to be expected in a chop zone. Poor high often causes the market to push away, so go the opposite direction, but then increases the odds that when it comes back, it will pass through and go higher. So they're just still doing the same thing, right? Still getting more and more and more stops up here. Telling you, look, it's a double top. You should go short. And then they whack, and you get that. Okay, so now we've done the work. We did the 2-sided trade. We did the chop. So now we can trust that the buyers are in control. They fought the good fight. They took control. So now I'm looking for the market to hold support at the halfback 44.36, or the overnight high, 44.40, for continuation higher. If we pull back through the halfback at 44.36, it is likely the market's going to head back down through the opening price. Okay, so the buyers took control. Can they stay in control? As long as they can, I expect it'll push up into resistance, come back down to support, push up into resistance, come back down to support, and so on and so forth. Ben says, hey, what is some of the reasons why larger players want to generate liquidity and pop it above and then reverse? Why do they get people on the wrong side? Is there some logic? Yeah, it's so the liquidity means they get their orders to fill. So like let's say you have, 1,000 contracts that you want to fill on the ES. If you just put an order for 1,000 contracts at one exact level, everyone's going to know it, and you're not going to have any edge, right? You're not going to have any advantage. So what you have to do is you have to slowly accumulate that position. You can't get in all at once. Otherwise, you set off too many alarm bells. So what they do is they push the market up a little bit, and then they create liquidity. They get stops, right? So what they were doing earlier this morning was they were convincing participants that this was resistance and the market was going to go lower. So every time it pushed up, short-term traders went short. Where did they put their stops? You see these big green dots? That's all of them. So everything that you saw happening in here, they were doing this to get the liquidity that they're filling right now. They couldn't have filled those 2,700 contracts if they just stuck the order right there. They had to first chop it and chop it and chop it and chop it and get all those people to go short and put their stops so that they could come back and take out that liquidity. It's just a matter of size. Okay, so we're pushing into the first resistance here. We'll be watching to see, does it bounce? Does it pull back? And can we hold the overnight high at 44.40 once we do? So you see that now? Those 3,000 contracts? Somebody's hungry. So Charles, a big player going short with 3,000 contracts, that means the market's going down, right? Heck no. They don't make it that easy. Could be anything. He could be going short because the market's about to flip and reverse, or he could be taking profits on longs that he was accumulating during the overnight. Who knows who this guy is or what game he's playing. All right, guys. Well, with that, unfortunately, I have to say goodbye. It's been great meeting all of you. I hope you got some insights from this. If you're interested in learning more, I have a community called Piratetraders. We'd love to have you join the team. I do live streams like this every morning for the first hour of the day, where I just talk about what I'm seeing and what my insights are and how those could be valuable. And then I also teach courses. I have a e-course that's available anytime if you want to take it. And then I also occasionally, once every few months, I do a live webinar type of series where I do live, 2-week-long course, 4 hours a day. I teach a lecture for the first half where I explain all the subject matter in depth. And then the second part of the day, we talk about what's happening live in the markets. If you're interested, we're actually doing one next week. Your timing is perfect. And you can head on over. I'll actually post the link in the description here. And you can head on over and join. It's $150, but that's only 3 points on the ES. If you anywhere in here got long and you took profits at resistance, you've already paid for the course. And there will be a lot more of that to come. So anyway, with that, I'm going to say goodbye and head on over to the Brigade private stream. But if any of you are interested, we'd love to have you next week for the course. Thank you so much. Oh, I forgot. It won't let me post links. Whoops. Well, there you go. You'll have to copy and paste. Anyway, thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day. As far as insights moving forward, I am bullish right now, but they've got to hold this overnight high at this point. If we start to pull back down, we may just be looking at a sideways day or even a sell-off. So they really need to hold the support here to keep it going. As long as they can. If they continue to hold support, test resistance, hold support, test resistance, remember what I said about the daily chart when we started out this morning. That daily chart is telling us that we are in a balance area. When you start the day in the middle, you're either heading up or you're heading down. Or you're going sideways, going nowhere. Right now, for this moment, it's saying up. As long as they can keep it going, we'll assume they can keep it going. Okay, bye.